Mr. Gautam Agawari, who I connected with. We sat, the first time we met, we sat in a cafe and we were just talking astronomy, and everybody in the cafe started listening to us. In India, because there's so much of an emphasis that you have to do well in the board exam, you have to get into the right college, that people lose their fun in studying. So, whereas in the US, I found that that spirit is encouraged even in high school level. At the school level, let them be excited about it, but many of them do ask for the guidance of how to proceed. And there we do tell them that you will need to be strong in math and physics. So it's not just taking pretty pictures, but but your career path has to go into physics or math or computer science, or engineering.
Now let's move to the next part of our interview where we discuss science in the country and the journey of scientists. So let's begin. So, ma'am, how was whenever you meet to the students, being an astronomer makes every student fascinated because many students just have saw some episodes of like how the universe work or something like the show of Stephen Hawking.
Right.
And things like that. So the interest of astronomy mostly comes from there. I'm not saying that it comes from there only, but it mostly comes from there. So how was your experience when you came to India and you talk to the students about
Right.
this, and have you had a thought in mind like are they getting some wrong thing in their mind about the astronomy? Was it like that, or it was like generally in every part of the world people are like that only?
So, yeah, so when I came back to India, I started being involved more in astronomy outreach and astronomy education. So, yes, I was dealing with or communicating with a lot of students. So students do look at astronomy as a very exciting topic because it's removed from what they think is their classroom topics. And they get to go out, they get to observe and get amazing pictures through the cameras or through the telescopes. Uh, so to some extent, I feel that's fine. At the school level, let them be excited about it, but many of them do ask for the guidance of how to proceed. And there we do tell them that you will need to be strong in math and physics. So it's not just taking pretty pictures, but but your career path has to go into physics or math or computer science, or engineering, so that you can be you'll have to go do solid work later on. So, and we do try to explain the concepts. So we do try to do a lot of workshops that are just small projects that would give them the idea that doing a little bit of programming, what can you understand, what are you looking for. So what we call investigative learning, we do try to bring that in so that they don't think, oh, it's all just fun. But we do want them to have fun because they're so bored at schools of just the textbooks, using the textbooks. So we want them to think there are some exciting career paths that you can go to using your knowledge of physics and math also.
So how STEM and spaces happen to you? Like you've been a part of STEM and spaces.
Right.
So how that thing happen to you?
So that is part of the background, same concept or same objective I'm talking about, because we feel that in India, because there's so much of an emphasis that you have to do well in the board exam, you have to get into the right college, that people lose their fun in studying. So whereas in the US, I found that that spirit is encouraged even in high school level. So, so what we did is we wanted to have students experience more of the fun part of science. So we tried to connect STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, to different concepts of space, because as we discussed, kids are fascinated by space topics. So not just kids, but there's a whole amateur astronomy community. There are many adults who are fascinated by space. So we wanted to tie in the two things. So with that, we started this company, and I've previously worked in another company which does similar things, which is we try to bring concepts of STEM to students through different activities of space. Like for example, there might be a activity that tries to teach them space communication through and through that they learn the programming basics, or they learn about antennas. So we are also teaching them about geography, earth science, so things like that. We tie into different space topics. So that is STEM and space, because we teach STEM through the concepts of space.
So in our last conversation, we were talking about this, like how STEM and spaces. You have a story about that, like how you've been to the organization, and like when you came to India, and you were the part of NASA back there, back in the US. But you were also searching for a job, in India also.
Right.
So what how the things connected you to the organization, and what was the thing that you were looking for, and how you end up in this organization?
So, when I came back, and I came for personal reasons, so I hadn't yet found a job in India. And so when I came back, I was thinking about what to do next, because I was in Delhi, so I couldn't really apply to places like ISRO, which might have been a good match. So what I did is I was just trying to figure out where I can work, and then I actually saw an astronomy outreach poster somewhere, and I talked to them saying, "Can I be a part of this company?" And I was. So through that, I developed my, so I rechanneled my experience. So I started working more in astronomy education, thinking of activities, trying to think of pathways where you can engage students, and through that, I formed STEM and Space with a business head who connected with me, and that too interesting because he found me through LinkedIn, and that's the modern world, networking. So we connected through LinkedIn, and I have to tell you that Mr. Gautam Agawari, who I connected with, we sat the first time we met. We sat in a cafe and we were just talking astronomy, and everybody in the cafe started listening to us. So we found that when you talk about such things, people are interested, and we wanted to really push this topic. So there are other companies, but they work with schools, so we wanted to give the chance to every kid, not just in schools. So we started doing even things like summer camps where anybody can participate, and we started taking it to younger kids and older kids, so that all the way from class 2 we do. So of course that was hard for me to process in my head, how to take astronomy to such young kids, but slowly we got the idea of how to do it through stories, through shadow play. So we involved a lot of, we've talked to educationists who've advised us on how to reach out to younger kids. So now we have the whole range from class 2 to class 12, and beginning university also.
Nice. And the transition that you had had in your mind, like because once you were working in a project of
Right.
NASA, and you were working in a lab. Now you have been designing the projects for the students.
Right.
So that transition, how it affected you?
So the transition was hard in different ways, because firstly I was working in the US, and that too at a place like NASA, which has excellence. So everybody who works there is excellent in their field. So the job world is, whoever is managing the project has an easy time, because they just allocate tasks and it gets done. But that's not how it works in India in most places. So I had to get used to the work world in a general company organization world of India. But the things that appealed to me is I had many other skills that I was not using there. Some of which are writing, because I'm very interested in science writing, and in fact now I write a column in a newspaper about astronomy. So and also I suddenly discovered that I'm really good at interacting with students. So these kind of skills I was able to build up. So yes, it is a part to transition in my life. For a while, it took me some time to get out of one comfort zone and into another. But later I felt it was like play. If anybody asks me what is your job like, I say it's like playing because it's a lot of fun. Of course, you again have to do your daily life of finding projects, writing them in proper ways, working with videographers, working with graphic designers, making the right material, product designers. But uh, it's overall a lot of it's a very different life. But now I've got used to how to work with different people at the Indian level.
How the last 2 years happened, and being in lockdown and a situation where you can't have the students physically.
Right.
So how things happened and how you changed yourself and the team changed themselves to adapt this thing.
Yes, so that's what happened to all of us. Uh, but yes, we were one of the people who were affected because we were doing workshops and classroom, school activities. We were going to several different schools, and suddenly we couldn't. So all the school jobs fell through. They were not hiring. I mean, they were not even looking for activities anymore. And additionally, what happened is we are very activity centric. We want students to work with something on the table and get their understanding from that. Suddenly we could not do that. We could not go to vendors. We could not send things to people. So we had to change our whole concept, and that's when we opened up more to everybody. You don't have to be from a school, you can be from anywhere. We started doing camps, workshops, and we also trained ourselves in much more online things. For example, I will tell you that I used Zoom 5 years back. So before before it became so popular. So so we tried to train ourselves to get the popular educational games and all that in. But the good thing that happened is, because of this transition where we made even our products that people can download or buy from their local shops and make things out of it. Okay, so through that we were able to reach many more parts of India. So our network expanded. Earlier we were constrained to Delhi NCR. Suddenly we were in all parts of India. Not only that, we are now working with UAE and places like that also. So
This pandemic somewhat helped
so
you.
the pandemic gave us a new direction, which is how to spread out more, and even to get projects. So like we work with some observatories, all that. So even that we were able to access more because of the pandemic.
Just one question I would like to ask, because even I have experienced that when we were talking about the pandemic and expansion of the work. So, like 2 years back when I started the Rosenda Talks, I never thought of that I will do a podcast with people like Dr. Jayant Murthy or Dr. TVR, like who are not in Delhi,
Right.
who are somewhere in Bangalore, in Gujarat, or in somewhere in the country or somewhere else in the country.
Right.
And I never thought of I will interview the Jeff Lieberman, so the person from the US. So I never thought of that. So Zoom gave me that confidence. Being in my room, I can interview these people.
Right.
So how things? What was your experience with Zoom? Have you ever thought of that? Okay, so back then we were treating we were having fun with the children of Delhi, and now we are connected with the students of all over the country.
Right.
So how Zoom changed that?
So, for me personally, like you, my journey also expanded a lot in the 2 years. For example, in India there's always funding problems. So
Let me just interrupt you.
Yeah.
Have you find another dimension of students, we have this perception in our mind, some students like it and some students don't, maybe not, maybe don't want to involve in the activities. But have you got like experience, like you have expected that this activity won't work here, but the activity have worked there very well, and people have gave you a good response.
Right.
Do you had any experience of that, or like people from the third tier 2 tier 3 cities, have they accepted the astronomy, and have they tried to participate in the project? Or
So that's these are all good questions, because tier 2 tier 3 cities have a whole different kind of material they're studying also. Yeah, so we do go through this, because we find that some students are very interested, some are not, and we try to do small teacher student ratios, so we can actually even on Zoom see what they're doing. So if we feel they're not interested, we just change it. We try to make it more interactive. We stop it. We do more online quizzes. They love it, like things like Kahoot. They love it because they can just think of it as a competition or a game. But also we try to find material that even, like I said, tier 2, tier 3 cities can easily obtain, and we try to make the matter simpler if we have to. So we keep changing it iteratively. If we have to, we just change it. But what we also did is we did a whole lot of webinars, not just with scientists, but like covering a whole range of skill webinars also, how to use some basic software, how to identify constellations in the sky. So we did a whole range like this for everyone around India. We reached out to a lot of schools, a lot of people, and people were liking some of them, not liking some of them, but that way they were able to get more material. And for me also personally, I was able to reach out to many conferences also, even astronomy and educational conferences. And in fact, I was invited to be a speaker at the first astronomy and astronautical conference in Brazil. So, which would not be possible except for the online world. So,
so it have expanded like our projects. And
so for me personally, it has created a network of astronomers, observatory people, outreach people around the world who are now plugged in with me. So they are giving us more projects that we can bring to our students. So it has expanded our horizons for sure.
So now let's move into some personal questions. As you know that in this portion of the interview, in this part of the interview, we try to figure out how the scientist, how somebody has become a scientist, and how to create one scientist. So let's just jump into the part. So, ma'am, like, please tell us about your background. Where are you from, and how you became a science student, and how the things happened to you in the astronomy?
So I'm one of the few people who, even at the school level, which was even in 6th, 7th and 8th grade, I used to say I want to be an astronomer. And in fact, now the funny thing is I have friends from that time who are now principals of well-known schools who invite me to talk to their students, because they say very few people are there who know from such an early age what they want to be and pursue that career. But my father was a well-known scientist, so that is definitely what influenced me to go into that. But even then, my father said that, are you sure you want to go into something like astronomy, because mostly you have to do a PhD for that, so you can't just quit after bachelor's or master's. So in many fields you might have an easier path because you can just quit and get a job, but in things like this you have to do the PhD. So but I was determined, and I didn't want to go into engineering, so I did my BSc physics in Delhi itself in St. Stephen's College, and then I directly went after that to the US and got my PhD. So it was a tough track, because the problem is, if it doesn't work out, then you're lost, because you haven't developed.
Because in doing the masters itself, it takes a lot of time
It
of
takes
the
a
life.
It takes a lot of time, and whole day is going in that. You don't have so much time to develop a normal life. so, uh, so yeah. So you have to be very committed.
जी, जी, जी.
Yeah.
So I was asking about the background. So where are you from? And
So I'm a Bengali, but I am from Delhi. I grew up
you
in
are
Delhi,
from.
and that's one reason we made the decision to move back to Delhi when we were moving back from the US.
So that's why you are near CR Park.
Yeah.
because because let me tell you, uh, as many of people from the Bengal region I have met, all most of them stays in CR Park or stays
Yes.
near CR Park, and there is a Bengali colony over
No,
there.
there is a Bengali. Yeah, right.
There is a Bengali colony, and even Ghatak sir stays there.
Yeah,
So
right. But see, in my case, because I grew up here, a lot of my knowledge, experience, food habits are actually North Indian because I've grown up here, and now I'm married to a person from Karnataka. So it's a mix. So and that's what US teaches you also, that you don't separate this. When you're in the US, you're Indians. You're not a Bengali, you're a
Yes, yes.
Punjabi or something. In fact, even there, I had a lot of friends from Pakistan and Bangladesh, and when an American sees you, they're seeing all of you as the same. So
when an American sees like the whole part of that region, like India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan,
they're all together. And,
they're all together.
And many of us used to do things together also, because after all, we eat the same food and same festivals and all that. So there is no distinction. Yeah. So even I see world that way. I don't. I don't see the distinctions between any country also, but definitely not between languages.
Right. Language.
I mean, you have to preserve your language, but
actually, like what past 2 years have told us, that language is just a thing.
Yeah.
That we can
can
communicate through other mediums also.
Right.
Like we can use
like just being on meetings
just,
together. That is
that's the thing. Like interestingly, when we talked last, so I was attending a science program, science communication program. So in that training program, people were from different regions of India, and that's a mix of, like, you can't just think of it like some people were trying to get the speaker to speak in Hindi.
That problem is always there, because
some were trying to tell, sir, please, we are not getting anything, so please speak in English, and that was the legit problem of every people like me who are who are bilinguals,
right,
and people like you who are bilinguals. We can understand a bit of both languages,
right.
But people from a region where they speak either
like
their
small
language,
towns,
speak their language, or just the Hindi or English. So it's quite tough for them,
right.
to
and even I've learned that when we do outreach, I mean, I even go and I've done outreach in places like Jantar Mantar, or in India Gate, with setting up a telescope or showing an eclipse to people. Then you have to talk in whoever is coming up, Hindi, whatever that is. And mainly the thing is action. Just show them kya ho raha hai. Keep the props handy, explain it. But,
that's the thing. So how was your experience in Delhi when you came back from NASA? So how was your experience with Delhi people? And have you missed Delhi food? Because once a Delhiite, always a Delhiite.
So Delhi food I missed, but the people took some getting used to, because the people are loud. They're always upfront. So you have to pick up the style. Otherwise, I had a small daughter also at that time, and I had to train her that you have to speak out. Otherwise, you are not going to get a chance at anything.
Being nice in Delhi doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Right. Exactly.
So, what were the foods that you like most?
So, yeah, definitely Delhi street food. And that is one thing you don't get in the US because I've been in the US for more than 20 years and you have Indian restaurants, but all the Indian restaurants have the same food.
They have just naan bread.
They have naan bread and butter chicken and palak paneer. They don't have South Indian cuisine. They don't have Bengali cuisine. So they don't have the variation.
That's the beauty of Delhi.
Yeah.
Because
and you don't have chaat and street food at all. Most of these places. So that
how
is
can a person survive?
So yeah.
So,
But the other thing I started doing during the lockdown is you might have seen because I'm doing a lot of dance videos now.
yeah. You. Yes, this is the place where
This is where I play. So this is where I shoot. But mainly the thing is that that's what the lockdown gave me, and a lot of other people. Like you said, you're doing more science, learning more science communication. You're participating in courses. For me, the thing is it freed up my time because earlier I used to take a long day in commuting. Because I used to go physically, and now I have more time, so I could pull up the passions from so long back and just practice more. And even there, I'm connected now with organizations internationally, and I'm participating with them on all that. So it gave me time to open up other dimensions.
So, what kind of dance forms you like?
So originally, I've done classical Indian dance, which is Odissi. And when I was in the US, I actually did many other dance forms like ballroom dancing, Latin dancing. But now I try to use all of them.
Have you involved your husband into any of the dance form?
Yeah, he is a bit involved, but he does get a bit involved. But mostly, even a dance, I feel any of these you can do on your own also because there are enough people around the world and around India who are interested in the same thing as you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how was your experience when you shot first video of your dance and you put it on the Facebook? How was the reaction of the people?
So, see, I had been doing dance in the past. In the US also, I did a lot of Indian dancing. I was part of Indian dance groups. But then for a while, I had a gap. So I found people very enthusiastic that, also I'm older than you youngsters who are coming out of college. So people are inspired to see that, okay, even older people don't just stay rooted to one job and their families, but they're doing other things. And through me, I've seen many people have been encouraged to go out and do things like that.
So that was the dance that you what other things you have explored during the lockdown that you didn't had the knowledge of, that you had that talent?
So just looking around you, we have a very beautiful garden now, but I have to say that before the lockdown we didn't even come outside. So because I had a job where I came home at 7 p.m. and then after that I just had tea and went back, and we didn't look after the garden at all. So both my husband and I built up on that knowledge. Which flowers grow in which season. It's not a knowledge we had at all, given a whole year at home.
That's a beautiful thing because we are shooting this video in February, and it's the great time having a knowledge of flowers because it's a time where the flowers
are just starting to come out. But that's what we learned, and we both didn't have any knowledge of gardening, and this is something we picked up by talking to different people throughout the whole year. So now we know what grows in what seasons. We've grown our own vegetables, so it's a new organic learning that we've done, which will help us, I think, forever.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which will help you, and which will
give
you a difference between the vegetables of the garden and the shop.
Right, definitely. Yeah.
So being a scientist,
so nowadays, earlier people used to think that scientists and artists are left brain, right brain. There's a separation. But nowadays, the separation is much less. So you can be both. So you can be. Many scientists are multidimensional, and scientists are into music and not so much sports. I feel. But
What I have experienced
right,
through my whatever I have done in past these years doing on Rosender. So what I have experienced is all the scientists have a soft heart for the art. Like all of them. Like if we talk about Sir C.V. Raman, say if we talk about him, he made a mechanical violin by the scrap of cycle.
okay,
So he had a he had a soft corner about the music, and he researched on the Indian musical instruments.
right,
Well, like Bhaba, he used to paint, and he used to sketch the portraits of many people. He created many portraits, and he used to play the violin and also. So there were people, and what do I say about Dr. Vikram Sarabhai?
right,
His wife was the artist.
right,
The she had the Padma Award with her.
right.
So there are people there are scientists. I think they have the soft corner for the art.
Yeah, because they want to explore more territories, and the arts gives them a good balance. Because otherwise, you're very isolated, sitting and doing your
And
own.
cricket is the one thing that unites all the
All-
all the scientists.
Right.
Because, one thing I would like to say here, and my mind was blown out of after knowing this, because I interviewed her and I didn't knew this thing about her. So I was interviewing Dr. Prajwal Shastri from IIA.
Right.
So we had a great talk, and we talked about black holes and the stuff. So after that, I interviewed one of her colleague, and one of the most respected person I have in my life, Dr. Patrick Dasgupta.
Right.
So when I interviewed him, he told me that Prajwal Shastri, Dr. Prajwal Shastri, is the cousin sister of Ravi Shastri,
Okay.
the Indian coach.
Right.
And my mind was blown, and I just messaged her like, "Is that the thing?"
Right.
I don't know why I wanted the confirmation from her, but it just made me too excited, and
Right.
and I just dropped a message to her, and she was like, "Yes, it's
Cricket
true."
definitely unites everybody in India.
Yes, and as many as the people I have interviewed in 2021, all of them are connected to one way or the other. They are connected to the cricket. Maybe some have an interest of watching cricket, and some are playing it,
Right.
like that. So cricket
Right.
is something.
Yeah, sports definitely ties people together. Yeah.
Okay. So I would like to end this podcast with a few questions that people will always have in their mind. Like, this is a very serious question, that have you ever stuck in a work or a something that you don't know, and people have said that किस बात के scientist हो? Have this ever happened to you?
I mean, it happens to all of us. You're right. It's definitely happened in my PhD, and that is a warning to most students doing PhD that you do get stuck sometime. And then it's very depressing, because you think, I've spent 5 years of my life doing something, and now I'm stuck. I'm not getting any results, or the lab experiment isn't working. And what do I do now? And then you have to have the spirit to say, okay, I'm going to fight it. I'm going to find some solution. So it does happen. You're stuck.
Okay, but what I was asking is, have when we are doing the science stuff, family also do this, because whenever we do a mistake, like it's something like if we don't know something about we don't do something properly at home. Like my mother always used to say, "किस बात के scientist हो तुम?" Like I'm not a scientist, but किस बात के science student
right.
to do. So have this
So
ever
for
happened?
me, it actually happened the opposite, I would tell you. And my father is very well known. He was the Director General of CSIR, Dr. A.P. Mitra. So he took on that I should interest my daughters in science. So what he used to do is give a challenge. He used to say, "This radiator is broken. Can you figure out how to fix it?" And I would have no idea. But I thought he's given me a challenge. I'm going to do it somehow or the other. So this is how he. Sometimes you couldn't, but I just stuck to it till I could do it. So that's the kind of way he was encouraging us. And on the other side, now being a mother to another science student, I've learned parenting is different now. So I, I try to not do this, because if she's stuck, I'm not. I try to not ask what's going on. This you should have got this. I just walk away, let her absorb it, and I say, "You figure it out in your own time."
Nice.
Yeah.
So how was as you have told me about your father. So when in the growing years, being the children of someone who is the director general of a well-known institution, well-known organization. Sorry, not the institution, well-known organization.
Right.
So, does that give any pressure in your studies and something like that? Because people always like, if there is someone in our home doing something great, so it's the legacy
Right.
that we have to go through.
Right.
So was that something like
So
that?
that was a pressure that I did put on myself, because my father was a well-known. First, he was also the director of National Physical Laboratory. So I was lucky to grow up with a lot of kids who are all trying to excel.
So have you ever been to NPL colony?
So in fact, I lived in NPL colony, of
And-
course.
Okay, I'll let you know why I'm laughing.
Okay. But that was a long time back. But yeah,
I'll let you know after
Okay.
the podcast.
right. So yeah, so for a long time, what I was doing to myself is saying I have to top, I have to excel, and putting the pressure on myself. And my sister got out of this pressure. She picked a different line. She went into architecture, and she said, "I'll be in a separate line. Nobody will compare me. I'll do my own thing." But I deliberately stayed. I was inspired, and I tried to put in a lot of work to excel in it. Till I figured out at some point that it's, I just have to be comfortable with what I'm doing.
Okay, so that was my questions for today, and hopefully you would have enjoyed talking about the science.
Yeah.
And hopefully it was a good experience. So in the last, any piece of advice that you would like to give to the students who are watching this podcast?
So yeah, thanks for interviewing me, and we've talked about so many different things. And just to students, I would like to say that yes, astronomy is a fascinating field, and so are different parts of science, and many fields of science are coming up right now, all the way from artificial intelligence, neuroscience, nanotechnology. So explore whatever you want, and hopefully your parents will be happy if you're just doing well, and go out and explore. You don't have to push yourself to top. There are many opportunities, and just love it and go ahead, and you'll find people like you who are like-minded, and they'll always be passionate about whatever you like to do.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.